This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Everybody, Keith Engel for TGI Sports Talk Football Huddle right here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network as our marching band brings us in tonight. How are you? Guys, the 2021 football season continues to roll on, and October is turning out to be much like September. Hello, Dave Guyette. How are you? You know, look at this past weekend. I'm going to bring Mark Mancini from Mancini Media in a second, but I mean, this past weekend got a lot to talk about again. You know, the topsy-turvy world of college football is still topsing and turvying, but yeah, we're going to talk about Oregon too. You got Alabama, you got Georgia starting to separate themselves, you know, so the good is still the good. The great is still the great, really. But more upsets. Cincinnati over to Notre Dame, not really an upset. Cincinnati was favored in that game, but Cincinnati going to South Bend, Indiana. Cincinnati, biggest win in program history. They got to be reckoned with. Oregon, losing to Stanford. Kentucky beating Florida. I kind of liked Kentucky, man, but I thought Florida was going to get over the hump here. And you could see Mullen on the hot seat in Florida, possibly. Although they were supposed to be in a rebuilding year anyway. The bottom line is college football, still college football. The great stories are still there. Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to assume this is Mac McGrath and not Linda, but either way, we don't talk about UConn. They did have an exciting game against Vanderbilt last weekend, which I don't know that we'll get time to talk about. We'll do our best, Linda and Mac. Guys, without further ado, let me find the right banner and get our esteemed colleague, Mr. Mark Mancini, in here. I got too many banners tonight. I can't find the right banner. You might not get a banner here, Mark. There you are. Let me bring him in. Mark Mancini from Mancini Media. How are you, my friend?
Well, first of all, I'm on the most popular show that's sweeping the country here on Wednesdays and Sundays, and I'm so blessed to be a part of it.
You're on Jeopardy?
I don't know. I got a bunch of guards outside my door here to protect me from the fans of Los Angeles.
Listen.
Because I think I've taken a blowtorch to their whole stadium out here at Dodger Stadium tonight. Other than that, I'm doing good.
You better escape under the veil of darkness tonight. In the middle of the night. You should leave town like Robert Ursay left Baltimore years ago, never to be seen in LA again.
Gonna feel like Chevy Chase and Fletch.
Well, for you younger folks out there, that's a reference to a very funny movie too many years ago to remember, I guess, right? Welcome, Mark.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, my brother. And boy, I'll tell you one thing. You said it in the beginning. It's Alabama and Georgia, and then we're going to try to figure out what other two teams are going to join them in the dance here.
It's going to be it's funny. The year starts to look different. Alabama, looks like they might be vulnerable, but now they're just I got fooled into thinking Arkansas had a chance against Georgia. I got fooled into thinking Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss had a chance against Alabama, and they just got run out of the building, both of them.
Well, not only that, look at Nick Saban. He's 24-0 against his assistants, and who's killing who to get the popcorn ready? Lane, I still think it's some burnt popcorn there at Ole Miss.
It's very funny. And you know what? Ole Miss and Arkansas are probably still going to have great seasons. They could have one loss and play in New Year's Day bowl games, and they're going to have gotten routed by the best two teams in the country. And it's good. We're going to be finding out whether are we going to have another 4-game playoff where it's just 2 blowouts in the semifinals? It could be.
So. I'll tell you one thing. We're trying to find out what the Pac-12 is going to look like after Oregon, we thought was going to be a contender, looked more like a pretender with Stanford. And I don't know. I'm still high on Jim Harbaugh in Michigan. They can easily be 6-0 after trouncing Nebraska this week. So if he can get past Ohio State and put that in the rearview mirror, I don't know, man. I like Michigan. Possibly.
Let's before we jump ahead here too far, let's kind of look back at last week. What were your big takeaways other than, obviously Alabama and here's mine. Obviously they separated themselves, right? Cincinnati's made themselves a force to be reckoned with. The committee for this playoff, if Cincinnati manages to run the table, can no longer, although Indiana's hurt their case a little bit by not having a good year. But still, they went to South Bend, Indiana, and beat Notre Dame. And no matter what year we're talking about, I don't care if Jerry Faust is the head coach of Notre Dame, it's still a good victory on your schedule. And they're going to have to deal with Cincinnati if they run the table here.
Well, what you're forgetting is Wisconsin here. If you can let Wisconsin play 2 quarters of football instead of 4, they'd probably be pretty much unbeaten too against Notre Dame and Michigan here. They just can't seem to get their act together, to say the least. So I think when you look at Notre Dame, I've always said Notre Dame's a hype train. Some people beg to differ, but Cincinnati went in their backyard and took it out. And I don't know if they escaped the touchdown Jesus statue, taking that back to the Queen City too. But boy, I'll tell you, they went in there and man, that was impressive to say the least. And the other thing that was impressive was first time in 6 years, Arizona State going in the Rose Bowl and taking out the Bruins.
I knew you'd
the Bruins, have got to be really looking at themselves here too.
I knew you'd skip about 10 other really good games to get ready for that game.
I'm revved up.
Your boy Herm gets a big win. Yeah, you know what though, Mark? The whole thing now is with that Pac-12. We'll jump to that with Oregon losing to Stanford. And everybody else beating each other up. UCLA can't win. Even at home against a good Arizona State team, but they got to win those games. The Pac-12 is going to be on the outside looking in at this playoff again. I don't care if Oregon's got 1 loss and 1 at Ohio State. They're going to have a very hard time, I think, putting up a case to be a part of that Final Four. Again, assuming things play out as we think in the SEC, and the Big Ten has got 4 real contenders, and then you got Cincinnati in the mix.
Well, let's be honest here. I mean, when you look at the SEC, the 5th team in the SEC can roll probably the top seed in the Pac-12, including my Devils of Arizona there. But, this is the problem with the Pac-12. I mean, they want to be, looked at on the same level as some of these other power conferences, but nobody takes them serious. I mean, this was another game late at night in the East Coast. Who's sicking up till 11 o'clock to watch Arizona State, UCLA? They hype it up, and now they're trying to sell the slogan, Saturday late night specials out here on the Pac-12 network. Give me a break. What is this?
The Pac-12.
Are you trying to keep up with Saturday night's main event with the WWE late night special? Come on.
Pac-12
I'm not buying that.
Pac-12 After Dark. That's how ESPN sells it.
Yeah, After Dark specials, whatever you want to call it. Everybody's asleep after they witnessed Alabama taking Ole Miss and some of these other great schools out there. They're not watching this After Dark special.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm doubly stupid because not only did I stay up and watch UCLA in Arizona, but I bet UCLA. So how stupid am I?
Yeah. And the problem is you're probably getting up in the morning and your wife's having breakfast there and you're getting up late because you stayed up and watched that debacle.
The problem is I don't sleep. So I'm still up at 5:30. It doesn't matter if I go to bed at, 2 in the morning. I'm still up at 5:30 for crying out loud.
Let me tell you something. When you're watching that game, boy, Daniel just shredded that defense with like 265-year bombs there. I mean, it's just unbelievable. What was UCLA doing, playing a prevent defense?
Chip Kelly, and we're going to get to this in a little bit when we talk about some coaches on the hot seat, but Chip Kelly's going to find himself in a very hot seat pretty soon. Some other games of note this last weekend. Ohio State gets back on the beam with a blowout at Rutgers, who'd played pretty well against Michigan and some other games early in the year. And Michigan, as you mentioned earlier, they have a nice win at Wisconsin because Wisconsin can't put 4 quarters together.
Yeah.
The Big Ten, all of a sudden, we thought it was Ohio State and everybody else. Now this league has got contenders. Ohio State's still alive, even with that bad loss against Oregon. Michigan is undefeated. We'll talk about that Nebraska thing in a little bit. I got a feeling there, but you got Penn State, who's playing tremendous football, and James Franklin's team is on all cylinders. Iowa looks like one of the best teams in the country. When their offense clicks, they're almost unbeatable because their defense is one of the better in the country. So, you got, again, we keep talking about it. It's going to be Georgia and Alabama unless the earth, falls off its axis here. I can't believe both those teams, no matter what happens, won't be in the playoff. So I think it's possible. And let's kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about, we're talking about the Big Ten. We're talking about the SEC. We're talking about Cincinnati. There's a real possibility to me that 2 Big Ten teams get in with 2 SEC teams. I think it's possible.
Yeah, I wouldn't put that past anything. I mean, I think Michigan, the way they're going, if they can keep it going and knock out Ohio State, I think Michigan's going to be one of those teams standing with Georgia and Alabama. And who knows? When you look at the other one, it could be Cincinnati. I mean, there's going to be some interesting thoughts here. Like you said, Iowa. I mean, it's hard to figure. But you're right about one thing with the Pac-12. Even if you run the table, you're so far down the ladder now. I mean, you got a few weeks in October, and then you're getting into November. Good luck with that.
I got it. It's going to be very hard for the committee to explain if 2 Big Ten teams get in. One's got to have a loss, right? They can't all be undefeated. A one-loss Big Ten team gets in there against that undefeated Cincinnati. Yeah, either way, I think if Cincinnati gets left out, the 12-team playoff is going to be in play next year.
Well, and not only that, what would be interesting out here at the Rose Bowl, if Arizona looks like they'll be the best of the best, which I think, and whoever drops the ball over there with Michigan and Ohio State, you can have an Arizona State Michigan or an Arizona State Ohio State in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting. The New Year's Day bowl games are going to be very, very good this year because I think the Big Ten's got a good representative that's not going to be in the playoff. I don't even remember who the playoff, the semifinal games are now. I think it's the, I feel like it's I know it's the Cotton Bowl. It might be the Cotton Bowl and the Orange Bowl. I think are the semifinal games. So you're going to have really good matchups in the Rose Bowl. You're going to have really good matchups in the Sugar Bowl because there's some really good SEC teams, I would say, that won't make the playoff. There's some really good Big Ten teams that won't make the playoff. And then you got the Pac-12 who's got to have a team in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
So,
well, not only that, you and I grew up with bowl games they were all on, January 1st, Rose Bowl, the Orange Bowl and all this. And now we've got the Cappy Parker Fried Chicken Bowl. We got, this bowl, that bowl, and I mean, it's the Liberty Bowl. And every time my Panthers seem to go to these bowl games, I'm saying, why are you taking a team that's on the Mendoza line to a bowl game? It's unbelievable. And the Panthers always seem to fall in North Carolina to play these bowl games for some unknown reason.
Well, there's way too many of these bowl games anyway. I mean, nobody cares about 2 5-5 teams playing on December, 23rd. Nobody cares.
Not only that,
it's all to fill ESPN's TV schedule.
Well, when you look at it, I mean, the stadiums aren't full. It kind of looks like Halloween where everybody's dressed as an empty chair. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's just, I mean, again, I don't see it going the other way because, again, it's TV money that floats the bill. And as you said, nobody in the stands. Who cares? Yeah. The Pinstripe Bowl in Yankee Stadium, nobody cares.
The janitor's over there and no pun intended, he's done, cleaning the restroom 17 times. Nobody's been in it. Hey, grab a seat. sit near the TV cam so we can, see some more fans in the stands.
Yeah. Anthony, I'm going to have a little comment on this Ohio State Maryland game here when we get talking about this week's games. What else? Any other takeaways from last week, Mark, that make sense to you? We're getting heavy into conference play now.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Pitt, if they didn't put up close to 80 on New Hampshire, they sure went to Georgia Tech and put like 49 down there. So unbelievable in 2 weeks. I mean, these guys are probably averaging somewhere about 60 points a game.
Oh, how bad? But how bad is that coastal division of the ACC?
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
it's terrible.
It's whoever I look at. I think it's entirely possible to me. We had obviously Larry Sorensen, the color analyst for Wake Forest, on last week. I'm going to try to have him on next week before I'm off for a week or whatever we got to do on it. And, they won a big game against Louisville. Louisville have been playing very, very well. They won a nice close game against them. They may be the best team in that Atlantic, with Clemson struggling. Clemson could run the table yet, still get to the ACC championship game. But I don't see anybody in that coastal division putting up a fight against the Atlantic myself.
27-24. What Larry Sorensen has to do is keep the mojo going.
Yeah.
Do not miss a week of TGI Sports Talk, buddy. Keep them Deacon Demons going, buddy. That's the thing. What you got to, look at here. And I'll tell you, the other team is, and people aren't giving them credit. I like what Sarkisian's doing with Texas, man. Keep your eyes on the Longhorns. It's a long-term effect there, what he's building.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, that brings up, since we're going to start talking, and we can talk about the conference conferences a little bit as we go along here, because I want to make sure we jump into the games. We'll start with the game you just brought up. I mean, we got the Red River rivalry. Red River, that's hard to say 4 times. Red River rivalry, which I hope, by the way, when they move to the SEC, because there's so many teams there, they can't play each other every single year. They can't eliminate games. You and I have talked about this in the past, how they've eliminated a lot of these great rivalry games. This one can't go away. And this is going to be an interesting game this weekend.
It can't go away. And let me tell you, when Texas and Alabama play, or you get Oklahoma and Alabama, or Ole Miss and Texas matching wits, are you going to watch anything else? I mean, the SEC is going to be it's going to be like the main Saturday night's main event every week, and everything else is going to be a bunch of court jesters coming out for the main event.
Yeah. Well, this game, these teams still are playing in the Big 12, right? And this is a big game in the Big 12. This conference is wide open. Oklahoma's not playing well. They're undefeated. Not playing well. Shane Rattler's having his struggles. I think Oklahoma State's underrated and may come away with the conference championship. But the Texas Longhorns, as you said, since they got beat by Arkansas, have kind of got their act together under Steve Sarkisian, and the offense is just kind of rolling. This is going to be a big game this weekend.
Well, he's really installed. He's probably brought the Armenian food down there in Austin. Everybody's having shish kebab dinners, rice pilaf. Players are buying into it. He's changed the culture there. I love this guy. I liked him when he was at USC. They railroaded him out. I liked him at Alabama. This kid's a good kid, man. He's going to turn that program around. And I'll tell you this right now. I think Texas will come back to the big dance before, USC does.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a surprise in this Big 12 in the conference championship game. I think you're going to see Oklahoma State playing Texas, and Oklahoma is going to be on the outside looking in. That's going to be my long-range prediction for the Big 12.
Yeah, and the other surprise would have to be BYU. They're amazing. It's unbelievable, BYU. When I look at BYU and the Utahs, and when you play these teams and you start playing in their backyard, anything can happen. The weather can change. Could be a snowstorm, a windstorm, whatever. Well, and you very rarely get out of there not being in a good fight.
Well, like I said before, they'd be in first place in the Pac-12 South if they were playing in that league, because they'd be 3-0 over there. They beat all those teams. They beat Utah. Yeah. They beat Arizona State. They beat who's the other team they beat out there?
There's another one.
Gosh, I lost it.
And Fresno State, what happened to them? You got to get Hawaii off your schedule.
Nobody wants to go out to Hawaii and play. It's terrible, terrible, terrible.
Luau's great weather. Come on, man. Stop going to Hawaii.
Yeah, there's two. Well, they got to go there, I guess, as long as they're in leagues. But what else? So we got some other big games. I want to jump on a game because let's talk. We were talking about the Big 12 earlier. Ohio State. Anthony Price wants to talk about Ohio State and Maryland. I'll tell you what, Maryland. I had really high hopes for Maryland. I thought Maryland last week was going to give Iowa at home all they could handle as a 4-point underdog at home, and they got absolutely run out of the building by Iowa. Maryland, I think, is a pretender. They're not for real. And I see Ohio State just rolling it up again this week because they need some convincing wins here, I think, going forward.
I definitely think on the same lines you do. I don't know what happened to the Terrapins. They're licking their wounds, and they're trying to put it behind them. But, boy, were they exposed. In your backyard, you were exposed that bad. It was right up there with the Cincinnati-Notre Dame game. You can't come out and lay an egg like that. And, I think Ohio State's going to keep this thing going, and we're going to see a clash with Michigan State. Michigan, that's going to be for the marbles here. Harbaugh gets his revenge.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think, since we're talking about that, we'll jump to Michigan. Michigan's got off to a good start. I think Michigan's got to be very careful this weekend. You talk about trap games. They're going to Nebraska. Nebraska's starting to find their identity. The cultural change is starting to come along. Scott Frost is a little, his seat's cooling off a little bit. That team's righted the ship, and they're 3-3 after a horrible start. They blew out a really well-coached Northwestern team last week. Is Nebraska ready to?
Well, I'll tell you, I've never been to Lincoln. I've had a friend that went through there, and he said, man, when Nebraska's playing at home, a $50 motel will start costing about $450 and change. And I will tell you this, they love their Cornhuskers. It could be a trap game, but I think, Michigan knows what's at stake. They go in there. It's going to be a close game, but they pull this game out to keep their record unblemished.
Harbaugh's done a good job of cooling his seat off as well.
Yeah.
Another huge game with huge ramifications is Penn State going to Iowa. And, both teams are in the top 5, at least in the ESPN poll. I don't know where they are. Let me see where they are in the coaches poll, which is what I've been paying attention to here. Both in the top 5, 3 and 4 facing off in Iowa. Huge game with ramifications. They're actually, they got a grudge because they're all pissed off, excuse my French, at ESPN for not bringing game day out there for that game. And they're going to the Red River rivalry because, they think that, ESPN's in bed with the SEC and trying to prop up Oklahoma, Texas. I think that's the right choice. I'm sorry, college football fans. If you're a game day fan, I'm a huge game day fan. And I always kind of predict, I know ahead of time. I try not to look. I try to predict Saturday morning where are they going to be. Now I know this is where you got to be. You got to be at the Red River rivalry. But this Iowa Penn State game is huge with tremendous ramifications in the Big Ten and the playoff picture. How do you see this game, Mark?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I've already got one city where I got to have security guards. I don't want to have a second city that I'll be debuting there in 3 weeks at WWDB in Philadelphia. So I'm going to be nice to Penn State and Philadelphia. So I think Penn State will figure out a way to win this game. Close game, but I think Penn State finds a way to win it. And, boy, it's nice to see that program back on an even keel. When you think of Penn State, you always thought of Saquon Barkley. You thought of Todd Blackledge. You thought of Joe Paterno. Great things. I'm going with the Nittany Lions.
Wow. I think I'm going to be against you here. I like the Hawkeyes here. I really do. I think they're in a great spot. I think they got the offense moving, and they got an offense to keep up with their defense. And I think they keep the chains moving towards the Big Ten championship game.